If the present is really all we have, then the present lasts forever. And Lamott. Everyone is flailing through this life without an owner's manual, with whatever modicum of grace and good humor we can manage. And Lamott. I used to tell my writing students that they must write the books they wish they could come upon, because then the books they hungered and thirsted for would exist. And Lamott. I do not at all understand the mystery of grace, only that it meets us where we are but does not leave us where it found us. And Lamott. The whistle is always waiting to be blown, and in some ways, it gets me to do better work. And Lamott. Seeing yourself in print is such an amazing concept. You can get so much attention without having to actually show up somewhere. You don't have to dress up, for instance, and you can't hear them boo you right away. And Lamott. Presents can make up for some of the disappointments that life doles out, such as it makes almost no sense and is coming to an end more quickly than ever. And Lamott. My mother might find a thin gold chain at the back of a drawer, wad it into an impossibly tight knot, and give it to me to untangle. It would have a shiny, sweaty smell and excite me. Gold chains linked you to the great fairy tales and myths, to Arabia and India, to the great weight of the world, but lighter than a feather. And Lamott. Alice Adams wrote a sweet note to me after my first novel came out when I was 26, and I was so blown away that I sent her a bunch of stamps by return mail. I have no idea what I was thinking. It was a starstruck impulse. And Lamott. I feel incredibly successful. I make a living as a writer and am able to help support a big family, my church, my bleeding heart causes. And Lamott. The earth is rocky and full of roots, it's clay, and it seems doomed and polluted, but you dig little holes for the ugly shriveled bulbs, throw in a handful of poppy seeds, and cover it all over, and you know you'll never see it again. It's death and clay and shrivel, and your hands are nicked from the rocks, your nails black with soil. And Lamott. I like to read away as much of the afternoon as possible until real life rears its ugly head. And Lamott. I am going to notice the lights of the earth, the sun, and the moon and the stars, the lights of our candles as we march, the lights with which spring teases us, the light that is already present. And Lamott. No one is more sentimentalized in America than mothers on Mother's Day, but no one is more often blamed for the culture's bad people and behavior. And Lamott. When I was a kid, our family used to watch Bonanza. I really liked having a Sunday night TV ritual. And Lamott. Summer nearly does me in every year. It's too hot and the light is unforgiving and the days go on way too long. And Lamott. I am an Aries. Although I do not believe in astrology, I think this is exactly the right sign to have been born under. And Lamott. I don't have very sophisticated taste in music. I listen to a lot of folk music. I like reggae. And Lamott. I have a very dark sense of humor. I swear. I have a very playful relationship with Jesus. And Lamott. I like the desert for short periods of time, from inside a car, with the windows rolled up, and the doors locked. I prefer beach resorts with room service. And Lamott. I'm drawn to almost any piece of writing with the words divine love and impeachment in the first sentence. But I know the word divine makes many progressive people run screaming for their cute little lives, and so one hesitates to use it. And Lamott. I wish I had thrown out the bathroom scale at age 16. Weighing yourself every morning is like waking up and asking Dick Cheney to validate your sense of inner worth. And Lamott. I accidentally forgot to graduate from college. And Lamott. My mother was a not too devoted atheist. She went to Episcopal church on Christmas Eve every year, and that was mostly it. And Lamott. You want to give me chocolate and flowers? That would be great. I love them both. I just don't want them out of guilt, and I don't want them if you're not going to give them to all the people who helped mother our children. And Lamott. The women's movement burst forth when I was 15. That was when I began to believe that life might semi-work out after all. The cavalry had arrived. Women were starting to say that you got to tell the truth now, that you had to tell the truth if you were going to heal and have an authentic life. And Lamott. I got a lot of things that society had promised would make me whole and fulfilled, All the things that the culture tells you from preschool on will quiet the throbbing anxiety inside you: stature, the respect of colleagues, maybe even a kind of low-grade fame. And Lamott. I went to church with my grandparents sometimes, and I loved it. And Lamott. Most of me was glad when my mother died. She was a handful, but not in a cute, festive way. More in a life-threatening way, that had caused me a long time ago to give up all hope of ever feeling good about having had her as a mother. And Lamott. Perfectionism is the voice of the oppressor. And Lamott. I hate the summer. And Lamott. I'm kind of a gossip hound, but watching the media whip the small fires into giant forest fires so that they can cover the result is infuriating. And Lamott. I used to love to untangle chains when I was a child. I had thin, busy fingers, and I never gave up. Perhaps there was a psychiatric component to my concentration, but like much of my psychic damage, this worked to everyone's advantage. And Lamott. I went to Goucher College in Maryland for the best possible reasons, to learn, but then I dropped out at 19 for the best possible reasons, to become a writer. And Lamott. I've written 6 novels and 4 pieces of nonfiction, so I don't really have a genre these days. And Lamott. All parents are an embarrassment to their kids. Often, grandparents are the relief. Kids don't have to resist you. And Lamott. I don't want something special. I want something beautifully plain. And Lamott. No one tells you that your life is effectively over when you have a child, that you're never going to draw another complacent breath again. Or that whatever level of hypochondria and rage you'd learned to repress and live with is going to seem like the good old days. And Lamott. I woke up full of hate and fear the day before the most recent peace march in San Francisco. This was disappointing. I'd hoped to wake up feeling somewhere between Virginia Woolf and Wavy Gravy. And Lamott. Most marriages are a mess, and the children get caught between 2 bitter, antagonistic parents. My parents stayed married for 27 unhappy years, till their kids were grown, and this was a catastrophe for us. And Lamott. I read the same amount of non-fiction and fiction. And Lamott. E-books are great for instant gratification. You see a review somewhere of a book that interests you, and you can start reading it 5 minutes later. And Lamott. It was a simple reality. Most competitive tennis players in my day were privileged, spoiled, entitled and white. Also, many of them were beautiful, fit, tan and of good stock, great big hair and white teeth and long legs. Then there were the rest of us. And Lamott. I spent my whole life helping my mother carry around her psychic trunks like a bitter bellhop. So a great load was lifted when she died, and my life was much easier. And Lamott. The Giants are usually described as ragtag, kind of a great garage sale team, and the Democrats are described as the mommies to the Republican daddies, and everyone hates the mommies. But wait, I didn't intend to get into the pathos and thrill of being a Democratic Giants fan. And Lamott. I would seriously rather be in a long line at the DMV than eat with people I don't know. And Lamott. These days cry out, as never before, for us to pay attention, so we can move through them and get our joy and pride back. And Lamott. My mother's eyes were large and brown, like my son's, but unlike Sam's, they were always frantic, like a hummingbird who can't quite find the flower but keeps jabbing around. And Lamott. We can't understand when we're pregnant, or when our siblings are expecting, how profound it is to have a shared history with a younger generation, blood, genes, humor. It means we were actually here, on Earth, for a time, like the Egyptians with their pyramids, only with children. And Lamott. I was the angriest daughter on Earth, and also one of the most devoted. And Lamott. I didn't write about my mother much in the 3rd year after she died. I was still trying to get my argument straight. When her friends or our relatives wondered why I was still so hard on her, I could really lay out the case for what it had been like to be raised by someone who had loathed herself, her husband, even her own name. And Lamott. Some people won't go the extra mile, and then on their birthday, when no one makes a fuss, they feel neglected and bitter. And Lamott. I quit my last real job, as a writer at a magazine when I was 21. That was the moment when I lost my place of prestige on the fast track, and slowly, millimeter by millimeter, I started to get found, to discover who I had been born to be, instead of the impossibly small package, all tied up tightly in myself, that I had agreed to be. And Lamott. There is nothing as sweet as a comeback, when you are down and out, about to lose, and out of time. And Lamott. You can safely assume that you've created God in your own image when it turns out that God hates all the same people you do. And Lamott.